Hi, I'm Ryan Wanamaker. I'm the farm director here at Camp Stevens in Julian, California, in Southern California. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about composting food waste specifically, the food waste from our dining hall, and how we do that, without a lot of work and without a lot of stink and without attracting a lot of rodents, and also how we integrate that into our guests' experience and into our program.
So what we have for our composting system are two 5 by 5 by 5 foot concrete bays that are essentially topped with a high cage of hardware cloth and a roof. And we use a lot of straw to incorporate it into our food waste when we're composting. And all those elements are important to us to keep the stench down, the rodents out, and to keep the management simple. So we designed it with our 4-foot front end loader in mind. That's our tractor. It has a 4-foot wide bucket. And that way the bucket can fit into the bays of the composting system. The bucket can raise and lower. There's retaining boards that hold the compost back, and they can be pulled out, and the doors can be removed, and the rain is kept off the pile by the roof. Food waste is really one of the nastiest things to try and compost, one of the hardest things to compost, especially with the smell, because it's often wet and it's often high in nitrogen. So introducing carbon and air into the system is really important to make a healthy compost pile that doesn't stink. And managing the moisture is also really essential to those ends. If a pile gets too wet, it's going to go anaerobic and it's going to start smelling bad. So we use straw. That's our carbon source. We really like straw because the way straw interfaces with the food in the pile. Straw introduces lots of air, and it's a high carbon material. Turning the pile is also really essential to introducing air and keeping the pile aerobic, keeping it healthy. So the ability to turn the pile easily, and for us that means turning it with a tractor, is really important. We used to turn all of our piles by hand, which is hard, long work. So being able to use the tractor, it was a big change and make it a lot easier, and also therefore less stinky. So as far as like quantity of how much material we're dealing with, we pretty much just take everything from the dining hall. Any food waste from the dining hall, we compost it. So we're probably doing around 5 to 10 yards of actual food waste a year that's coming out of our kitchen. I currently turn it about 4 times a year, and it takes me about 1 hour when I do it each time. So when all is said and done, I think that we probably end up with about 2 yards of finished compost a year. And it takes around 3 years from start to finish. But during that process, it breaks down to about 20% of its original mass. Our goal isn't to necessarily create this really high quality compost. It's really to keep food waste out of the waste stream, so it's not going into a landfill dumpster. And more importantly, again, it's for our guests and campers to interact with.
So the location of our compost pile, I think, is really interesting, that we've put it in a very central place in the camp. It's close to the dining hall, it's close to the kitchen, it's close to lodges, and it's adjacent to common spaces that guests share. So it's right here in the center. And I think that's really essential, so that it's easy for us to and efficient for us to maintain the pile, and it also makes it easy for people to interact with it.
Getting campers and guests involved in the process of separating their food waste, bringing it down to our composting operation, and helping to make our piles. And I think that's really important to demonstrate that there's valuable nutrients that are left in food waste. So we have some other composting systems around the camp too. Because this is a living and working community with people year-round, we have composting, like kind of just normal composting bins, and really similar, like a bale of straw near the houses where our staff live. In the lodges, sometimes our guests are, they have coffee grounds and tea bags and organic matter. So all of our lodges do have compost bins in them that we can then collect at the end of a weekend or at the end of a session and incorporate that into the big composting system.
To me, Camp Stevens is really about finding ways to connect our guests and our campers with each other and with the life systems of this planet, with the belief that that cultivates gratitude, and gratitude is, I think, inherently regenerative. That kind of thought set us on this path about 30 years ago, and it's been a long evolution of figuring out how to do it and how to create interactions, positive interactions for our guests.